Our story starts here, where there was an ongoing race in the school. The girls were cheering from the side. Someone had reached the finish line in just 2 minutes, and 36.79 seconds. It was Zhuo Jing, the main protagonist of this story. The girls immediately erupted into fangirling. He looked calm as he poured water over himself, which only made things worse. The girls couldn't help but squeal even louder. One girl walked up and offered him a towel to wipe off his sweat. She looked unreasonably happy when he accepted it. While drying himself, he checked the system panel. He gained plus 20 running experience, and his running skill reached level 3 with 258, over 800 experience points. The experience gained was slightly higher than usual. Then he noticed something else. His charm had increased by plus 45. He frowned in disgust when he saw how quickly this useless skill leveled up. Suddenly a ball was thrown at him. He blocked it with his palm. Someone had thrown it on purpose, though he had no idea why. Judging by the guy's expression, the reason was probably standing right behind him. Shui Jing's friend walked over and asked what happened. He also asked if Jing knew the guy. His friend was Li Ji, and he stiffened the moment he recognized him. It was the school tyrant Pei Yu Guang. Li Ji immediately asked why Jing had to butt heads with him. He sighed and assumed it was because of a woman again. He told Jing to just accept one and save himself from drawing aggro from the entire school. But Jing had no interest in that. Liga pointed out that even if Jing didn't, the men around him clearly did. He also warned him that Yu Guang wasn't someone to mess with, and asked what he planned to do. Jing answered that he would just work out. Liga nearly yelled that working out was useless, and that Jing had to practice martial arts instead. It might be useless for others, but Jing was different. 1 month ago, he had inexplicably arrived in a world almost identical to Earth. Along with him came a translucent panel. An effort here actually paid off. His hard work was never wasted. As long as he practiced enough, he could activate the corresponding skills. He met the conditions and unlocked the skill, aiming at level 1. Although daily training brought him huge benefits, the consumption was also massive. And when he opened the fridge, it was completely empty. He wasn't working this hard just to look cool. The place he lived in was called the 5th Metropolitan Circle. Since it was a circle, there was an inner area and an outer area. The farther out you went, the poorer and more desolate it became. The farther in, the more prosperous and noble. He still had half a year before graduation. He could either fight his way into the inner circle, or stay poor for the rest of his life. It was time to make a choice. Jing went out to buy groceries, and the total bill came out to 210. It made him go pale, and he decided to take a few items out of his cart to stay within budget. He couldn't believe that 5 eggs cost 30. He muttered that this was just insane. While walking through a dark alley, something suddenly jumped out. It was a stray cat. It landed right in front of him, like a professional scammer, blocking the road. But then he noticed the scars. The cat was covered in injuries, as if it had recently lost a fight. Then the cat spoke, complaining that it never expected the world of stray cats to be this cruel. Jing froze, mostly because the cat had just spoken. He wondered what on earth was wrong with this cat. Then he noticed the rings on its tail. When he touched it, the system detected a divine substance. He absorbed the divinity. The planet he was on was called Earthstar, a world also known as Jushia. 287 years ago, God died on that day. All humans on Earthstar witnessed the spectacle with their own eyes. They rejoiced when the gods died. Humanity finally stood on its own, and Jing would grind his way up until he became a god himself. At Jing's residence, he gave the cat some cat food, but it refused to eat it. In fact, it looked at the bowl with clear disdain. Jing was annoyed. He couldn't believe this stray cat wouldn't even touch it. Then he remembered something important. This cat could talk. He realized it wasn't just a cat. He headed to the kitchen and started cooking. As he worked, he gained plus 20 cooking experience. He chopped vegetables and cooked everything over high heat. Soon he placed a green pepper and shredded pork rice bowl in front of the cat. The moment the cat saw it, it started drooling. It ate happily. Jing wore a smug expression, satisfied that he had been right. He realized the reason it could speak human language was simple. It wasn't a cat at all. It was a human who had turned into a cat. And as for the reason, he suspected it had something to do with the rings on its tail. Suddenly, the system notified him that divinity absorption was complete. The divine skill Twin Life was inactive, but required divinity for activation. 525/50 he had met the conditions, and the system asked if he wanted to activate it. There was no need to think twice. He clicked yes. The screen glowed brightly, before notifying him that the skill, Twin Life, had been successfully activated. Jing frowned, unsure what it actually did. The passive effect of Twin Life granted him 2 lives. After death, he could choose a resurrection time within 7 days. The cooldown was 3 months. He stared at the panel in disbelief. This was basically resurrection armor. If the passive effect was already this powerful, then the active skill had to be ridiculous. Unfortunately, the active skill was still locked. It required divinity to unlock, and he was only at 25 out of 500. Jing glanced at the cat, and briefly considered draining the rest of its divinity, but when he looked closer, he noticed how badly injured it was. That made him hesitate. Continuing to drain it now would be downright inhumane, so he decided to find another way. Still, he couldn't just let the cat go. He planned to head out first, and search for clues related to divinity, and see what the cat would do. While he was gone, the cat was left alone at home, with a camera watching it in the outer ring. 4 people in the outer ring to enter the inner ring. The difficulty was absurdly high. Even if they managed to get in, they had to pay an exorbitant fee, often enough to bankrupt a small, wealthy family. Even so, countless people still rushed toward it. But what most people didn't know was that there was another way. If one could become a martial artist, all problems would be solved. While Jing was walking through a dark alley, a man holding a metal bat appeared in front of him. Jing calmly asked if there was a problem. The bald man turned to the blonde one, and asked if this was the person their big brother Yu Guang had his eye on. They warned Jing that he was dead meat. Jing could only sigh. In the blink of an eye, the bald man collapsed. Everyone froze. They didn't even see Jing move. The blonde man was struck next. Then the third man was hit squarely on the forehead. Jing hadn't even stepped forward. He was just throwing pebbles. Combined with his skill aiming, the men groaned in pain, as they finally realized that Jing wasn't as harmless as he looked. But one of them still charged at him. Jing's eyes activated when the man swung his punch. Jing dodged just in time. It was a good thing he did, because the punch smashed the ground where he had been standing. That wasn't brute force, that was martial arts. The man grew irritated that this brat was so agile. Jing, on the other hand, felt relieved. If Yu Guang knew martial arts, that saved him the trouble of looking for someone to ask. He stepped forward and told the man to explain everything he knew. Otherwise, Jing wouldn't show mercy. The next thing we knew was that Yu Guang was slammed onto the ground. He trembled as he promised to submit everything he knew. Jing grinned. He had thought this guy was tough, but after all that build-up, it turned out he only had one move. Yu Guang kept throwing punches. Jing quickly realized that after all this time, that really was his only move still. Thanks to him, Jing met the conditions and activated the skill. Fighting aiming didn't just sharpen his dynamic vision, it also improved the accuracy of his punches. Dealing with a martial artist at Yu Guang's level was more than enough. Before long, Yu Guang was begging him to stop hitting him. Jing asked what kind of move that punch was. Yu Guang nervously explained that it wasn't a move at all, but inner force. It was the act of gathering energy from the entire body and releasing it outward through a technique. Jing asked how to train it. Yu Guang admitted that he had only learned the basics and couldn't explain it clearly. Jing grabbed his collar and called him pathetic. He brought up the rumors about Yu Guang, how he smoked, drank, permed his hair, committed arson, murder, and even breakdanced. It made Jing doubt how someone that ruthless could submit so easily. Yu Guang hurriedly explained that those were all rumors. He needed them to build an image. If they were true, there was no way he'd still be in school. Jing slapped him and warned that if Yu Guang forgot today's lesson, he would beat him up every time they met in the future. He added that since Yu Guang liked bullying classmates, he was to write a self-criticism when he got back. Then, he had to recite it 10 times in front of the class. During morning reading tomorrow, one of his lackeys was to record it, so Jing could check later. Yu Guang's face was swollen, tears dripping down, as he swore he would obey everything Jing said. When Jing moved again, Yu Guang thought another beating was coming, and screamed at him not to hit him anymore. But Jing only reached down and took his phone. He pulled up the dojo's address. Since Yu Guang couldn't explain inner force properly, Jing decided he would go there himself and ask. That night at the city inner ring, Jing followed the map exactly. The system told him to turn right in 120 meters. When the system notified him that he had experienced a battle, he gained plus 109 fitness points and plus 50 aiming experience. He felt refreshed, earning plus 33 health preservation. He also met the conditions to unlock the fighting skill. On top of that, he gained plus 68 battle experience. His stats updated. Fitness reached level 2 with 431 over 500 points. Health preservation reached level 1 with 269 over 300 points. Cooking was level 2 with 279 over 500 points. Running hit level 3 with 502 over 800 points. Charm stood at level 2 with 398 over 500 points. Aiming reached level 1 with 208 over 300 points. And fighting unlocked at level 1 with 68 over 300 points. Normally, grinding hard at the gym for an hour only raised fitness by around 200 points. This single not so tough fight gave him far more than regular exercise, and even unlocked a new skill. He quickly realized something important. If he wanted to grow fast, he'd need to pick fights more often. Soon he arrived at the Golden Wind Dojo. At first glance, the dojo looked surprisingly nice. He stepped inside and said he was there to visit. The staff immediately shushed him. The master was teaching a class. He turned to look. The master was instructing 5 students. He explained that the breathing method was the foundation of martial arts. By controlling breathing, one could activate the force within the body. Only when qi fully circulated could someone be considered truly initiated. Jing's eyes lit up. This introductory cultivation method was exactly what he had been looking for. He leaned closer and whispered to the staff, asking if he could join. She blushed when he got close. She clearly found him handsome. She told him he could join, but warned him not to force himself. From that brief exchange, his charm gained plus 30 experience points. He thanked her and walked over to an empty cushion. He listened closely as the master spoke. The staff watched nervously, unsure if Jing could handle it, since this was his first exposure to martial arts. They were instructed to inhale as deeply as possible, and then hold their breath. The staff silently hoped at least one student would succeed. Otherwise, the master would blame her for wasting his time. When the master counted to 37, several students had already given up. Others' faces twisted as they struggled to hold on. She felt disappointed when even Cui Jianyuan, the one she had the most hope for, finally gave in. The master's expression darkened. As he walked toward her, she hurriedly begged him for a few more days, promising she would find a suitable disciple. But to her shock, he walked straight past her. He told her to stay quiet. There was still a child holding on. He stopped in front of Jing. Only then did Jing realize the truth. The breathing method sounded simple, but it was brutally difficult. Massive amounts of oxygen surged into his lungs. Without strong lung capacity, one wouldn't even qualify to practice inside his body. His true qi expanded nonstop, swelling as if it were about to burst. The time was up. Jing slowly exhaled. The system notified him that he had activated the skill. Inner force now at 69, over 200. When he opened his eyes, the master and the staff were already crowded around him. They asked how he felt, and whether he had any discomfort anywhere. He answered honestly. On the contrary, he felt refreshed. The staff asked for his name, and then asked if he wanted to join the Golden Wind Dojo. Suddenly the glass window shattered. Something burst inside. It was a large flying insect, and it instantly devoured one of the students. Everyone froze in horror. No one could even understand what they were seeing. The master reacted first. He opened the door and shouted for everyone to leave immediately. He called for the staff member Zhang to help maintain order. Blood sprayed everywhere. The monster turned its attention to her next. Jing didn't hesitate. He rushed forward to save her. They crashed to the ground together, pinned beneath him. She strangely felt relieved and a little happy. She even wanted to be pinned down by our boy forever. Jing's charm increased by plus 20 points. In that moment he remembered what Yu Gang had once said. Inner force gathers energy from every part of the body, then releases it outward through a single move. This was the perfect chance to test it, so Jing did. The large beetle-like monster rushed straight at Jing. He punched it in the head. The impact released a violent wave of wind. Jing hoped this thing wasn't like a cockroach, able to withstand hundreds of times its own body weight. If it was, then brute force wouldn't work. He needed to concentrate all his strength into a single point. He adjusted instantly. The next strike crushed its outer shell. The system notified him that he had activated inch force now at 80 over 200. The monster was blasted backward, hissing loudly. Its blood splattered across the room. Only then did Jing realize the truth. It looked terrifying, but it was far weaker than it appeared. Jung stared at him in shock. The master, however, looked worried. Jing had only just grasped chief force, yet he had released an enormous amount all at once. His body wouldn't be able to handle that kind of strain. The monster steadied itself and let out another furious hiss. Jing could tell it still wanted to fight. He calmly declared that the outcome wouldn't change, no matter how many times it tried. Qi surged through his meridians and gathered in his arm. Pain followed immediately. His chest tightened and he suddenly coughed up blood. Something was wrong. The monster charged again. That was when Jing realized he had pushed himself too far. Alarm shot through him as he watched it close the distance. Then unexpectedly someone struck. In a single flash, the monster's body was cut clean in half. Jing froze in disbelief. A woman stepped forward and introduced herself. She was from the White Raven Squad, captain of Squad 838, codename Void Blade. Her team took control of the area and ordered all unrelated personnel to evacuate immediately. This was the first time Jing had ever heard of the White Raven Squad. To kill that cockroach-like monster in one strike meant only one thing. The people in this organization were terrifyingly strong. Void Blade glanced at Jing and quickly assessed him. He looked only 17 or 18, yet he had managed to injure the monster so badly, using nothing but his bare hands. On top of that, she found him very handsome. She began searching for a reason to recruit him. She walked over and handed him a note. On Sunday afternoon at 5 o'clock, she wanted him to go to the address written there. She promised she would tell him what he wanted to know. Jing accepted the paper. Written on it were the words Ching Chung Library, 7th floor. Outside the dojo, Jiang hurried over and asked Jing if he was okay. She fussed over him, insisting on taking him to her house. When she realized what she said, she changed it to the hospital for a checkup. He reassured her that he was fine. He thanked her for allowing him to visit the dojo. After that he left. She called out telling him to come back tomorrow, but the master quietly shook his head. He felt it was unlikely for a child to display that level of strength. Upon first contact with the Qi, a small dojo like theirs simply couldn't hold someone like him. As Jing walked down the street, the system kept sending notifications. He gained plus 29 fitness experience, plus 89 health preservation experience, and plus 50 charm. He also earned plus 98 fighting experience, bringing fighting to 166 over 300. He met the conditions to activate Inch Force. Inch Force was simple in concept. Gather ki into a single point, then accelerate it to maximum speed, within the shortest distance. Used properly, even the toughest defense could be shattered. Jing wanted to experience it one more time. He tried activating it again. Instantly nausea hit him. He remembered the master scolding him earlier for abusing Qi like that. Jing decided not to court death. He would rest properly and see how things went tomorrow. After learning about the White Raven Squad and that cockroach-like monster, he couldn't stop wondering how many secrets the world was hiding from him. In the end, he decided to visit the address on the weekend. When he reached home, he noticed a light coming from his window. He checked his phone and saw what the cat was doing. It was sitting in front of his computer. The moment Jing entered and spoke, the cat jumped in surprise. He asked why it was messing with his computer. Caught red-handed, the cat still tried to play dumb. That only annoyed Jing. Since the cat refused to explain, Jing decided to settle the score later. After he got some sleep, he lay down on his bed. The cat tilted its head, sensing something was wrong. It caught the smell of blood on him. Did he get into a fight? That thought instantly annoyed the cat. She had already claimed him. Who would dare bully what was hers? She jumped onto Jing's stomach and demanded to know what happened. She told him to speak up no matter who it was. Shi Ningfengna, leader of the dragon sect, would seek justice for him. Jing calmly confirmed something first, so it really could talk. He admitted that he had always known it was human, but he was exhausted. They could talk after he slept, and just like that he was out. Fengna yelled at him furious, telling him to at least explain before falling asleep. The next day, Jing's stamina had fully recovered. They chatted over a meal. Thena learned that he hadn't been beaten by anyone. He had defeated a monster instead. Jing confirmed it with a nod. She frowned. She had never heard of monsters roaming freely into the city. Jing reached out and patted her head. He thanked her for worrying about him. She instantly blushed when he called her by name. Putting on a tough front, she told him he wasn't allowed to address her so casually. He had to call her respectfully. As the sect leader, she demanded he call her Lord Nair instead. Jing went along with it since she could speak. He finally brought up something else. He wanted an explanation for what she had been doing. In the video on his computer, her eyes widened. Cold sweat broke out as she froze in place. The thing on Fengna's tail was called a cattail ring, a type of god relic. She was looking up information about it. He reached out and touched her tail. She shrieked. 287 years ago, God died. It was said that the golden specks of light left behind were god relics. He had only heard stories about them before, but now he was seeing one with his own eyes. Now he finally understood how it could absorb divinity. She asked him how long he planned to keep pinching her tail. He felt a little embarrassed and pulled his hand back. He asked if she was searching for instructions on how to use it. She said she didn't want to use it. She wanted to take it off. She explained that the Dragon Sect was the largest gang in Qingcheng. They didn't just control entertainment venues. They also worked with martial arts halls. To run drug businesses, their growth had been too fast, and it attracted jealousy. She had been attacked inside her own villa. Someone put that thing on her and she turned into a cat. By the time she barely managed to escape, the Dragon Sect had already fallen into someone else's hands. She could only return to her human form if the ring was removed, and she wanted those people dead. He asked what she planned to do next. He said that if the answer couldn't be found online, the library was probably a dead end too. She told him she already had a plan. That plan was for him to train in martial arts and become strong. He asked what that had to do with removing the ring. She explained that once he became strong, different organizations would come looking for him, and among them there might be a god relic holder. By following those connections, they could eventually find a way to remove the cattail ring. He grinned when he heard that people would come knocking on his door because of that. She planned to introduce him to the best dojo. She asked if he had heard of Hidden Dragon Dojo. He said yes back when he wanted to learn martial arts. He had checked the tuition fees of every dojo in Qingcheng. Hidden Dragon Dojo was the most expensive of them all, but that wasn't what he remembered most. What he remembered was the overwhelming number of bad reviews. She scoffed and said those people were trash. They couldn't endure hardship, so of course they failed. She added that among true martial artists, no one looked down on Hidden Dragon Dojo. He asked how he could get in. She said the answer was simple. Follow the rules of the Zhang who stormed the dojo. He stared at her in disbelief and asked if they would really accept him after he smashed the place up. She looked at him like he was hopeless and said, dojo storming was just an interview. Disciples were divided into ranks. Some paid to enter, but even if they trained seriously, it meant nothing without talent. Others had talent but lacked real strength. If it took 10 or 8 years just to become capable, that was useless too. On the path of martial arts, mindset mattered most. Only someone with an invincible spirit could throw an invincible punch. Dojo storming was a way to recommend oneself, and the best way to prove that spirit. She told him to go tomorrow. She still had some things to take care of. The next day a disciple welcomed Jing at the entrance of the Hidden Dragon Dojo. They shook hands, but the man suddenly tightened his grip. Jing felt the pressure and assumed it was a test. Since it was a test, he decided to take it seriously. He squeezed back with full force. The man yelled in pain and started whining that his hand was about to break. Other students quickly gathered around and burst out laughing. They told Jing not to take it personally. Apparently that guy was a martial arts fanatic who tried to spar with everyone he met and lost almost every time. The man's face turned red as his loud-mouthed classmates exposed him. Only then did Jing realize the guy was just a random passerby. At that moment the crowd suddenly parted. The old dojo master was approaching, along with several direct disciples. The students were stunned. Even the old master had come out, along with direct disciples, who rarely showed their faces. Some whispered nervously, wondering if something big had happened, or if the dojo was about to shut down. The old dojo master was Meng Bo Shang. He sat in a wheelchair, with a black cat resting beside him. Pushing the wheelchair was a petite woman named Zhu Shanin. To his left stood a green-haired man. Chen Fuguang. To his right was a tall man named Li Qi. Behind them was a woman named Meng Qing Jiao. Jing froze. Feng Na was there. The dojo master raised his hand, and the chatter instantly died down. He looked at Jing and asked if he had come for a dojo storming. Feng Na gave Jing a quick wink. RMC glanced at her and commented that she wasn't bad. The old master chuckled. It had been a long time since anyone dared to storm his dojo. He asked Jing if he believed he was qualified. Jing answered honestly. If he was asked that way, he didn't really know. From what he could tell, the combat levels here didn't seem that high. Boss Han decided to ask him a few questions. First was his name. Jing answered. Then his age, 17. More questions followed. The longer it went on, the more nervous Jing became. The questions were starting to feel strange, so strange that it felt less like an interview and more like a marriage inquiry. The dojo master laughed and told him not to be nervous. It was only natural to ask these things when meeting a future son-in-law. Jing leaned closer to Feng Nia and whispered, asking what was going on. She whispered back that she had no idea either. Zhu Shaning spoke up and addressed the dojo master as grandfather. She said that qualified or not, they still had to fight first. She looked at Jing and told him she would go easy on him. Jing nodded. He was ready. The disciples were stunned. Their little senior sister was actually stepping in herself. In their eyes, the kid was finished. Feng Na puffed out her cheeks and complained that they were still fighting when it had already turned into a marriage interview. Shanin warned him to be careful. Feng Na felt a spike of worry for him. A target marker appeared, shunning through a punch, but Jing dodged it cleanly. He immediately grabbed her wrist and flipped her onto the ground. The impact left her dizzy. Fu Guang narrowed his eyes and commented that Jing's dynamic vision and grappling position were very precise. He said Jing's movements reminded him of his own style when he was younger. Boss Han laughed happily. He praised Feng Na for finding such a good seedling for an old man like him. Feng Na replied proudly that it was only natural, though deep down she had been nervous for Jing. Just moments ago, Jing turned to the dojo master and asked if his storming was considered successful. At the same time, the system notified him that he had experienced a battle where the weak defeated the strong. He gained plus 21 fighting experience, plus 121 fitness experience, plus 89 health preservation experience, plus 56 Miao Aim experience, plus 139 sports experience, and plus 50 charm. The dojo master declared that, since Jing had defeated Shan Yin without any formal martial arts training, he was unquestionably qualified to become a direct disciple. He added that it was about time to change how Jing addressed them. Jing smiled. He greeted his master and his senior brothers and sisters. Fu Guang welcomed him as their 7th junior. Xiangying looked embarrassed. She introduced herself properly and said she had underestimated him. She warned him not to get arrogant just because he won once. That was when Jing learned she had been the youngest direct disciple. Before he arrived, he thanked her for the guidance, and she responded with a scoff. A woman walked over and addressed him as young master, Shui, offering to guide him through the procedures. Jing was confused and asked why he was being called that. Bo Shang explained that a direct disciple should never be looked down upon. From that day on, Jing was nominally an inner ring resident, so calling him young master was only proper. Jing asked if they could change the title. It made him uncomfortable. She suggested calling him Master Jing instead. Jing sighed and agreed. At the lounge, Jing sat on the sofa, while Feng Na rested comfortably on his lap. He told her that dojo storming wasn't as difficult as she made it sound. After all, Shanin went down in a single move. Feng Na shook her head and said he was wrong. Shanin was actually much stronger than him. Martial arts wasn't about comparing numbers alone. Mood, condition, intelligence, decision-making, and even luck could all decide victory or defeat. Jing thought it over and realized that Shanin had underestimated her opponent. Feng Nia agreed. If that girl had been even a little cautious and waited for Jing to make the first move, the outcome would have been very different. But a win was still a win, and there was nothing more to argue. Jing admitted that luck played a big role, and that he needed much more practice. He then asked where she went the night before. He wondered if she stayed at the dojo overnight. Feng Na replied that to squeeze someone in, she had to go say hello to Grandpa Li. Jing asked why she called him that. She casually explained that Grandpa Li almost cuckolded her grandfather. Back in the day, Jing froze. So he was basically a male mistress. A staff member soon handed Jing an identity authentication card and told him that starting tomorrow, he could enter by swiping it at the access control. Jing thanked her. The system notified him that he gained plus 20 charm. The next day word spread. The kid had trained through the entire night. They were talking about Jing. All were shocked by how strong he was. He gained plus 234 XP plus 133 health preservation, plus 79 sports XP and plus 89 inner force XP. His inner force upgraded to level 2. He also received a large amount of favorability, increasing his charm by plus 35. Bo Shang trained him without mercy. Jing was forced into a squat, while the old master told him to hold on a little longer. His inner force experience increased by plus 99. Just a bit more, Bo Shang urged, telling him not to waste the effort he had put in. All night the system notifications kept coming. Plus 99 inner force XP again and again. The system congratulated him. His inner force had upgraded to level 3. The moment it ended, Jing collapsed to the ground, landing hard on his butt. He was drained. Boss Han sighed in amazement and said that, among the disciples he had accepted in his lifetime, Jing was the strongest. Before long, he would be able to cultivate the hidden dragon, sect cultivation method. Jing lay on the floor breathing heavily. The moment he heard that, he forced himself upright and asked what level he needed to reach to learn it. Bo Shang stared at him, realizing this kid was a true martial arts fanatic. Boss Han told him to hold out his hand. Jing assumed they were about to spar again. Instead, Boss Han released a powerful aura. His eyes turned red. Jing felt a massive surge of true chi pour into his body. He had no idea what it was doing, and no way to resist it. Bo Shang asked what kind of sports Jing usually did. Jing replied that he mostly just ran, and didn't do much else. Jing nervously asked if there was something wrong with his body. Boss Han shook his head and said, there was nothing wrong at all. In fact, Jing's body was terrifyingly perfect. Every muscle, every bone, every organ was balanced, as if molded by a god with obsessive tendencies. In simple terms, he was a martial arts prodigy. Jing knew the truth. It was all thanks to the panel. After activating the fighting skill, his body had transformed into this state. In a way, he really did count as a genius. He asked again if he could start learning the cultivation method. Bo Shang frowned and asked why he was in such a rush. He pointed out that Jing had trained all night, and his body was covered in injuries. Cultivating right now would be no different from courting death. Jing asked what he should do instead. Bo Shang told him to head to the lounge first. He would have someone send over the sleeping dragon ointment shortly that night. Someone knocked on Jing's door. It was Shanning. She had come to treat his injuries. Jing froze. He couldn't help but wonder why it was her, and whether she was here for revenge. Shanning told him to take off his shirt. Jing did as told. When she saw his upper body, her eyes lit up slightly. He was more built than she expected, and the reaction made him feel a little flattered. She told him to lie down. The system notified him of plus 45 charm. She ordered him to behave, lie still and not move. She began applying the medicine to his body. Jing told her to wait. He honestly couldn't tell what she was trying to do. The way she moved made it feel like she was deliberately teasing him. She leaned in close as she spread the ointment across his chest. While she was on it, she revealed that she was actually competitive. His face heated up, but he noticed that despite everything, his self-control was still holding. While she's on top of him, she asked why he wasn't saying anything. Jing replied calmly that it was fine, as long as she was happy. After a moment, she admitted that losing to him had been her own carelessness. Even so, she had felt unwilling, and decided to use this chance to tease him a little. In return, the system notified another plus 45 charm. She said she hoped he wouldn't be angry with her. Jing's charm kept increasing, but his expression looked stiff. He explained that he wasn't angry, he was just in some pain and it wasn't a big deal. She said the upper body was done, and suggested that he take off his pants next. When she reached for them, Jing quickly grabbed her hand and told her he would do it himself. She giggled, saying she had only been messing with him. Seeing him panic like that was amusing. She handed him the ointment and said she'd leave the rest to him. Then she turned around and left. He performed a session of hibernating dragon technique, stance training and earned plus 98 fitness experience. Several identical system windows popped up, one after another. Jing walked down the street afterward, his whole body aching. He muttered that it was terrifying. He almost felt dismantled by that woman. The system notified him of a level up. His fighting level rose to level 3, and his inner force increased to level 4. Jing beamed at the sight of it. With nothing else scheduled, he decided to head to the library for the appointment. As he walked, he muttered that the name, White Raven Squad, sounded extremely Chuni Bu. In reality, it was just Ching Cheng's special police organization. Still, he couldn't understand why they wanted to meet in a library. At the Chingcheng Library, Jing arrived on the 7th floor. To his surprise, it was completely empty. For a moment he wondered if he was being messed with. Then someone greeted him. He turned around. A tall woman with long blonde hair stepped into view. She introduced herself as Wu Yuqing, the Yu from Childish Yuji and the Qing from Sunny Day. Qingtian. Jing asked where Void Blade was, and why she had chosen the library as their meeting place. She explained that she was Void Blade's informant. Since this was a private meeting, they couldn't use the special police station. She admitted that she had been skeptical at first, but after seeing him in person, she approved. She told him to join them. Jing asked on what grounds. She said calmly that she knew he was interested in god relics. He froze. His reaction alone was enough to confirm it. She smiled slightly and asked how he had learned about the concept of god relics. He didn't want to answer her question. Instead, he became curious about the woman herself and what kind of background she had. She said it didn't matter if he didn't want to talk. It was her fault for not explaining things. First, she poured him a cup of tea. He took a sip. It was just plain water. She then poured the remaining water back into the pot. After that, she poured him another cup. She told him to taste it again. Jing was confused. It still looked like ordinary water, and he couldn't figure out what she was trying to prove. He drank it and froze. The water was sweet. She calmly explained that 287 years ago, God died, or more precisely, a deity died. When that deity perished, countless points of light scattered across the world. They called those fragments God's blood. God's blood fell into objects, living beings, and even things born from human imagination. Anything infused with God's blood became what they now called a relic. The item in front of him was one of them. Serial number God-1567. Sweet water kettle. Jing leaned closer, wanting to inspect it properly. A part of him suspected she might have just added sugar beforehand. She handed the kettle to him. The system immediately detected a divine substance. His divinity began increasing by +5 repeatedly. His total divinity climbed to 502/500. He confirmed it instantly. He could absorb divinity simply by touching god relics. His active skill was now fully recorded. Jing was stunned. He asked what the kettle's actual function was. Did it make water sweet without sugar? Could it boil water out of thin air? As he spoke, his divinity continued to rise, because he was still holding it. His guess was close enough. She giggled, thinking that he clearly hadn't seen much of the world yet, and somehow that made him even cuter. Jing noticed that the water level didn't seem to drop. He wondered if the kettle was infinite. She was impressed that he actually used his brain. He kept receiving notifications of divinity, increasing by +5 points. He stopped counting. Once he realized he could finally activate the skill. As an outstanding student of Qingcheng affiliated high school, she expected him to understand what that meant. He thought it over, and looked at the sweet water kettle again. A perpetual motion machine, something capable of overturning the basic laws of the universe. He even wondered if the endless electricity in the inner ring was connected to relics like this. She told him not to overthink it. The very nature of a god relic was unreasonable. It was something no man-made object could ever copy. He asked her why she had taken the initiative to tell him all this. It was because 3 days ago, he had defeated a monster with the body of an ordinary person. Even when facing such a terrifying and unknown creature, he showed no fear at all. She handed him her card. Red, whose God Relic Containment and Research Company Limited, the CEO herself. The company was also the designated equipment supplier for the White Raven Squad. On a spiritual level, he had already surpassed most people. That was why she hoped he would join Wu's God Relic Containment Company. and since our boy would have the chance to absorb divinity, he was genuinely excited about joining her team. He promised to obey every command. To him, a God Relic containment company wasn't just a job, it was a God-tier workplace he absolutely had to enter. And as for me, I really like it when our protagonists are smart. Like this God Relic containment company, sounded like a place where he'd be surrounded by God Relics all day. Just thinking about it made him excited. Rich and powerful, that was a solid combo. Right now, the only source of divinity came from God Relics. Just the passive skill. Twin Life was already this broken. The active skill turned out to be even more unreasonable. Then no one in the world would be able to beat him. The thought made him laugh out loud. Yuking could tell. He was deep in his own little fantasy. She took a document out of her bag. She handed him the contract and told him to look it over. If there were no issues, he could sign it. He read through it and found that it looked like a standard labor contract except for one extra part, a confidentiality agreement. There was also a clause stating that the job involved a dangerous, special field related to God Relics, meaning serious risks. If he became disabled or died during work, the company would pay his family $5 million to cover medical fees, funeral costs, and other expenses. But there was a condition. If the accident happened because of intentional actions or gross negligence on his part, there would be no compensation. That alone told him this was not a safe job. She explained that God Relics were divided into 4 grades: D, harmless level; C, danger level; B, high danger level; and A, the highest danger level. In the future, only if he showed enough growth would he be involved in truly dangerous work. He wanted to ask more about a grade Relics, but she stopped him. He didn't need to think about that yet. A relic of that level wasn't something one person, or even one company, could handle. When that happened, official government agencies would step in. He asked her why she chose him. Even if he had contacted a God Relic before, that alone didn't mean he was qualified. And as far as he knew, she didn't know about his panel, nor that he practiced martial arts. He couldn't believe she would invite him, just based on Voidblade's one-sided recommendation. Something felt off. She pointed out that he was wrong about one thing. It wasn't that he contacted a God Relic. It was that the God Relic contacted him. He asked what she meant. God Relics seemed to possess a certain degree of will. They would actively approach people they were drawn to. And among humans there was a special type who could attract God Relics on their own. She was one of them, and she knew that Jing came born happened to share the same constitution as her. To show her sincerity, she offered him that level of salary. The contract stated that he would receive a monthly salary of $200,000. After successfully containing a God Relic, he would get a 25 project share, along with 1 stackable equity. Jing realized how valuable he actually was. Now it made sense why they were in such a rush to recruit him. He said the salary didn't matter much. He mainly just liked God Relics. Then he signed the contract, and he handed the document back to her and told her to take good care of him from now on. She smiled and said she was happy to cooperate. He told her that if there was nothing else, he would leave now. She said goodbye to him. Between the Hidden Dragon Dojo and collecting relics, his schedule was about to explode. He was worried he wouldn't have time to attend school anytime soon. He sent a message to Ji asking him to help inform the teacher that he was taking a leave due to being bedridden. Ji replied that he could leave it to him. After all, with a monthly salary of $200,000, he wouldn't earn that much. Even 10 years after graduating, his top priority now was simple: get stronger. Only by becoming stronger would he have a chance to go back. He decided to check his active skill first. While walking through the outer ring, he summoned his system panel. The divinity required to upgrade Twin Life Level 1 showed 502/100. Its passive effect granted him 2 lives. After death he could freely choose a resurrection time within 7 days with a cooldown of 3 months. The active skill was no longer locked. The unlock requirement was 502/500, which he had already met. The system asked if he wanted to activate Twin Life, and he chose yes. Now for every level he could designate one ability related to his physical body. When activated, that ability would produce a double effect. The available options were memory, physical defense, physical strength, reaction speed, movement speed, calculation ability, and concentration. In short, if he chose physical strength, he would gain double strength. While Twin Life was active, he already had resurrection armor, so doubling defense felt pointless. His body was already tough and his main attack style relied on aiming rather than brute force. Then a saying crossed his mind. In the world of martial arts, speed decides the winner. He chose speed. He needed a proper comparison first, or he wouldn't know how strong the skill really was. From where he stood to the street lamp ahead, the distance was about 100 meters. He decided to run once. Without the skill and time himself, he started running. The result was 10.24 seconds. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. He decided to activate the skill and run back. To see if there was any difference, he returned to the starting point and ran again. This time he was so fast that only a trail of light remained behind him. His time was 5.12 seconds. Exactly twice as fast. Now he understood twin life wasn't just a gimmick. It had real substance for an ordinary person. Improving 100-meter sprint from 20 seconds to 12 seconds was manageable with hard training. But beyond that point, every 0.1 second improvement required 100 or even 1,000 times more effort. Without extreme talent and massive resources, it was nearly impossible. Hypothetically, in a high-intensity hand-to-hand fight, where even the smallest mistake meant death, activating the skill would create acceleration that completely defied logic and intuition. That would be a guaranteed kill. He was very satisfied with twin life. It ignored physical laws and natural limits, making it a truly divine skill that broke the rules. While his body was still warm, he wanted to test it a few more times, but to his surprise, the skill had already entered cooldown. From activation to now only 20 seconds had passed. He realized he would need to use this ability very carefully in the future. He also had no idea when it would recover. With that, he decided to head home. After training all day, his entire body ached. When he arrived home, he planned to take a bath first, then enjoy a long peaceful sleep. Tomorrow he would still need to go to the dojo. His vision suddenly turned dark. The next day he was lying outside near the staircase. When his phone rang and woke him up, he realized he had been asleep for 6 hours. He had no idea why he ended up sleeping in the hallway. The first thing he did was check Twin Life's recovery. His eyes lit up when he saw that it was almost fully refreshed. Based on that, he quickly figured it out. Every 1 second of Twin Life usage required 1,000 seconds of cooldown recovery. If he used it to the limit, it would take around 6 hours to recover completely. Just then a message popped up from Shanin, asking why he still hadn't come to train. Only then did it hit him he was late. He rushed off immediately. Eventually he arrived at the Hidden Dragon Dojo. He burst the door open. Xiangying was helping a student stretch into a split. When she saw him, she immediately rushed over and said, "He arrived just in time." She grabbed his hand and pulled him to the center, announcing that they would spar to demonstrate the proper use of gene force. The students started whispering among themselves, placing bets on who would win. One guy was confident it would be Xiangying. In his mind, she had only lost last time because she was careless. Jing had just started learning martial arts. There was no way he could win again. A few even hoped she would go easy on him and not break him. Jing knew that. Even though she called it a demonstration, she was really trying to reclaim the reputation. She lost last time, and this time she wouldn't be careless. But that didn't bother him. For him, this was the perfect chance to test his own ability. After briefly asking for her guidance, he activated Twin Life Level 1. She was about to strike him with her palm, but he vanished in an instant. The next second, he grabbed her arm and slammed her to the ground. The impact left her dizzy. She couldn't understand how she still lost, when she had clearly used her full strength. He calmly declared that she had handed him the win. He gained plus 97 fighting experience. He also gained plus 81 fitness experience, and plus 49 health preservation experience. On top of that, his aiming experience increased by plus 26. His sports experience increased by plus 69, and sports upgraded to level 2, 9 out of 500. Only then did he realize something important. This was no longer considered a weak, defeating the strong after activating Twin Life Speed. The system no longer judged him as weaker than Shanin. Shanin had rich combat experience and was fully on guard, and yet she still couldn't react in time. That made him realize just how terrifying his power had become. From now on, his training would focus on fully mastering the speed difference. Moments later, Fu Guang waved at him and asked if he wanted to practice the hibernating dragon technique together. He accepted his fifth senior brother's invitation. Later on, Fu Guang was in complete disbelief. He had thought the rumor about Jing practicing the hibernating dragon technique for one night was just bragging, but now he could clearly see it. Jing had almost cultivated dragon qi. When Fu Guang first practiced the technique, he could only last half an hour. The comparison felt ridiculous. Still, he explained something important. In the martial arts world, there was a legendary, ultimate physical state called the treasure body. It meant refining one's physical body into a true treasure. In that state, the body would reach 5 kinds of perfection: muscles holding dragons and elephants, iron tree coiling tendons, skin blooming glaze.